You're burning yourself out, but I've got good news. Content creation doesn't have to be this hard. Today, I'm breaking down how you can use one of my favorite tools to save time and make content creation feel easy. By the way, this video is sponsored by Riverside. This first tip, guys, I don't want to big it up before I actually deliver it, but realizing this did something to my soul. The first tip is to batch your energy and not just your tasks. Now, I'm a self-proclaimed batching queen. To break the fourth wall, I've actually been filming content for about 4 hours now. The way I keep up with being across multiple social media channels is quite simply by batching my content. However, whilst batching works great for your social media channels, there is a way to ensure that it actually works well for you too. And how you do that is not just by batching tasks, but it's by matching those tasks to your energy. Let me explain. Days where you have high energy should be the days where you're filming your content. Days where you have low energy might be the days where you script or you write prompts for your content. If you're someone who can't manage your time that way, maybe you work full time, maybe you've got kids, etc., then think about how your energy ebbs and flows throughout the day and match what you're batching to that. Right? For example, I'm a morning person. I know, we're insufferable. Mornings are my favorite time of the day. I literally live for them. Therefore, I film all of my content in the morning. It's currently 10 a.m. and I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I have literally been filming since 6 a.m. I woke up very early this morning. Whilst I'm super high energy in the mornings, I massively dip in the afternoon. Between the hours 1 to 3 p.m., I'm pretty much useless. So during that time, if I still had content that I needed to create, what I would focus on doing is batching low effort content. For example, short film content where I'm simply collating B-roll and doing a voiceover to create the content. Or maybe I'm hopping on a trend which actually doesn't require me to film or record anything new. It just requires me to edit something, right? Now, if you're someone who feels like you are frequently in the state of low effort, again, maybe you have a full-time job, maybe you've got kids, you've got responsibilities. So whenever it comes time for you to film your content, you always feel like you're doing it from a place of lack. I completely get you. I used to feel like this a lot when I was managing my content whilst working full-time. There's actually a tool on Riverside that might really help you when you're in this state. The tool is called Video Dub, and it's actually going to blow your mind. It allows you to fix your audio after you've actually recorded it. I know. So if you've been creating content in a low effort state and you keep on messing up what you're saying and you're not quite nailing it, you can actually fix all of that in post-production when you use the video dub feature on Riverside. All you need to do is tweak the transcript and AI will regenerate the audio, the tone, the pacing, even your lip sync. Mad. I know what you're thinking, and no, it doesn't sound robotic. So there's no robotic overdubs over your content. It's simply using AI to replicate your voice, your tone, your lip sync, so that you can edit and fix your content after the fact. It's available on Riverside subscriptions, which are the Pro plan and up. And I'm going to be mentioning Riverside a few times throughout this video. So it's worth saying now that yes, I do have a discount code. So when you're ready to upgrade your plan on Riverside, you can use code Jade Beason for 15% off. Thank me later. Okay, tip number 2 is a quick one, but it's super effective. It involves you using content prompts to prevent blank page syndrome. Blank page syndrome is essentially when you sit down to ideate some content, to prep your content, and nothing comes up. Your page remains blank because you have no ideas. We've all been there, okay? Now, whilst I always advocate for keeping a running list of content ideas whilst you're on the go, so that when it comes time to build out these ideas, you should hopefully already have a list, there will come a time where you still don't have any video ideas because you simply haven't come up with any whilst you've been on the go. This has happened to me multiple times in the past. So what this tip encourages you to do is to come up with a list of prompts which spark ideas for you, right? Some examples of prompts include before and afters, 3 mistakes, a day in the life, story time. These are all really simple content prompts that I'm sure if we thought hard enough, we would think of. But this tip just means that we don't have to think of them because they're already written down on a piece of paper. So when we sit down to come up with ideas, we immediately see those prompts and that is what sparks the ideas from there, right? It just helps to prevent you from staring at a blank page for hours and hours on end. My next tip, and potentially my favorite tip, is to turn one content idea into 5 pieces of content. We're all about efficiency here, right? We're all about trying to make content creation feel as easy as possible. This is going to be one of the best tips to allow you to do that. Now, this tip is all about repurposing. So it's about taking one piece of content that you have come up with and created and turning it into several other pieces. There's a great framework that you can use that will guide you through this process. And I don't want to dive too much into it because otherwise this video will be 4 hours long. But essentially, the framework starts with a macro piece of content, a micro piece of content, and then a remixed piece of content. So the macro piece of content is ideally the piece of content content that you have spent the longest amount of time creating on your favorite platform. So if Instagram, why am I still doing this? So if Instagram is your most important platform, then it's the reel that you just created. If YouTube is your most important platform, then it's the YouTube video you just created, etc. That is the macro. The micro content is when you take snippets of the macro piece of content and you turn it into things like quotes or carousels. A great tool to allow you to do this is the show notes feature on Riverside. It essentially summarizes your content. It provides you with keywords, an overview of your video, key takeaways, and sound bites. So those last two things I mentioned are the things that you want to use when you're creating that micro content. So you want to find the key takeaways from that video, the key sound bites, and you want to repurpose them into things like quotes and carousels. Now, the remix part is when you quite literally take the original video that you've created, remix it in some way, and then share it on other platforms. Now, not everyone will need to remix the content. For example, if you've created an Instagram reel, you can just share it as a TikTok, you can just share it as a YouTube short. However, some people like to have slightly different styles of content for their different platforms. For example, in the past, if I created a super high quality, high production video, instead of just sharing that on TikTok, I would actually refilm the video using my phone and make it a bit more raw, a little bit more authentic, and I would share that version on TikTok. It's the same content, it's just been remixed slightly. This is the tactic that works super well for people who create long form videos as their macro content, like yours truly, because you can use a tool called Magic Clips on Riverside, which will use AI to find the best parts of your long form video and trim it down so that it could be remixed into a shorter video for an Instagram reel, a TikTok, maybe even a LinkedIn post. Now, one of my biggest tips for remixing your long form video into shorter videos is to ensure that the final video can stand alone by itself. So don't just cut down your long form video and just share it without even looking at it or without even enhancing it further. You actually want to cut down your long form videos and then do things like add captions, maybe add a hook to the start of it, maybe even edit that video a bit further. And you're able to do all of these things when you use Magic Clips on Riverside. The next tip for making content creation feel easy is to set a time limit for good enough. I feel like some people might not like this tip. Perfectionists, I'm talking to you. Perfection is the enemy of consistency. I know that sounds dramatic, but I truly, truly believe it. If you want to get to a state where you are able to create content efficiently and easily, then you want to ensure that you're not spending too much time getting bogged down in your own perfectionism. The tip that can really help you here is to establish how long you want to spend and how long you should spend on creating a piece of content. Set a timer and then finish working on it when that timer goes off. You have to be really strict with yourself, okay? There's a concept called the MVC, which is the minimal viable content. This is basically having a clear idea of what the minimal standard of content that you can create that will help you reach your goals is. Being really clear about your MVC is what will allow you to be a lot more cutthroat with how long you're spending on your content. Since we're talking about saving time when you're creating your content, it would be remiss of me not to share a few tools that will massively help you save a lot of time, especially when it comes to editing video content. So you can find these tools under the AI producer button on Riverside. There are a bunch of amazing tools under this section, but the 3 tools that I think are really great for helping you save time include the Remove Pauses tool. This basically allows you to automatically remove pauses from your video content. And yes, you can specify the length of the pauses that you want to remove, and you can do this with just one click. The Remove Filler Words tool does exactly what it says on the tin. It finds the filler words that you're using. So when you're saying and, but a lot, it will find those filler words and it will remove them for you, again, with just one click. And then there's the Find Fluff tool, which basically allows Riverside to recommend parts of your video to cut. So it'll find parts of your video where you're just chatting absolute nonsense, also known as fluff, and it will recommend that you remove those sections. So when you use these 3 buttons, it allows you to tidy up and edit your videos, 2 things that would previously take hours for you to do, literally in 3 clicks. Like, you can literally do it in minutes. Tip number 5 is a different one from the ones that we previously broke down. This tip is more to do with the content that you're actually creating. And this tip is to focus on the feeling and not the format. So this tip is really useful for people who struggle with the pre-production process. So when you sit down to script your videos or prompt your videos and you get really caught up with the format of the content that you're creating, trying to ensure that you're following all the tips and the strategies that you hear online, and it ends up feeling quite overwhelming and taking far longer than it needs to. This tip is going to help you with that. It basically encourages you to tweak the way that you're approaching your pre-production, and instead of focusing on the format of the content you're creating, focus on how you want your audience to feel as a result of watching your videos. For a lot of us, when we make that small tweak, we find it a lot easier easier for us to prep our videos and even film our videos because we have one core center focus. Also, our content will usually end up performing better because content which triggers an emotion tends to trigger a lot higher engagement for audiences. If you use this tip and you still find yourself struggling to nail down the right script or the right prompts for your video, then I really urge you to just start filming and film all of the different versions that you've written down. So if you've written down a bunch of different hooks, just film all of the hooks. When you're done, open up Riverside, upload your video so that you can edit it, and just highlight the hooks that you don't want to use in the text editor, press delete, and just like that, you would have removed them from your video. Like, it can literally be that easy. Okay. Utilize all of those tips and I promise content creation will start to feel so much easier than it does right now. Head to the link in my description to get started with Riverside, and don't forget that you can get 15% off when you upgrade your plan when you use code Jade Beason. If you feel like hanging around, I recommend watching this video. It's all about my exact proven income strategy that content creators should follow if they want to earn a full-time income just through content creation. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I can't wait to see you in my next video.